Lee and I are going to present to you on module number 6, which is nurture, and you can see there it's all about influencing individual and group behavior. And we're going to talk about maybe some hard concepts as we move through, but some of the analogies, we just want you to remember that when we talk about bosses, managers, and leaders, that we know that those don't technically exist within our volunteer organizations, but we're using that to just kind of bridge the gap, if you will, and talk about how nobody we really want in our organizations to be acting like the boss. So just kind of keep that in mind as we move through. And I told Lee to just interrupt me because y'all know how I get. I just keep talking. But anyway, this nurture module is just all about, again, tone and atmosphere. You know, we want our local groups to inspire and encourage and motivate one another, motivate our projects, you know, motivate that's going to stem out into the community. So we're just going to look a little bit at how we're influencing behavior from both that individual and organizational perspective, and especially from the vantage point of all of you being here today as representatives, leader representatives from your organization. So this one kind of ties hand in hand with what Celeste and Anna just chatted about with us. So
yeah. Real important that the leaders present that, because interns, that's their first impression a lot of times of the group. And the leadership's not one that's really inspiring, motivated, or really excited about it, then that will translate into those interns too. So we need to be a nurturing group to start with those interns.
Absolutely. And again, that's why just having our, you know, having that atmosphere set, that good tone, creating that local culture is so important. So being positive, absolutely. So again, you've heard me talk about knowing thyself, and it's all about nurturing yourself, just like you would in, you know, eating a good diet, exercising every day, drinking lots of water. It's going to be kind of the same thing. So when we look at this boss versus leader dichotomy, it kind of comes down in essence to, are we using people or are we developing people? You know, in a lot of our projects, you know, we have a lot of labor involved, and it's a common you know, it's a common hobby that ties us together with gardening, and we are social beings, so we all want to be there working together. But if we're a project leader or on our leadership teams, are we just using people to get things done, or are we really developing those people, especially interns? You know, are we developing them? Are we empowering them to go forth, you know, and kind of put their own identity and their own spin on projects or activities, you know, for that class or for that individual volunteer? Lee, you got something you want to add there?
I think, you know, they need to feel like that they are part, they're not just being used, and that's very critical. And you've got to communicate to them how important they are in making this a success. You're not just using them as labor, so you want to cultivate and nurture them into that feeling that they are belonging and they're contributing, but they're not just being bossed around.
And I think that's going to be key. Again, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but some of us might be coming out of positions where we've been CEOs or something of companies, and it's all about, you know, being the boss and getting things done, and we need those people to do that. But the thing we have to recognize within our volunteer organizations at the local level is that, again, we're all in this together. You know, this hobby, gardening, is what binds us all together in the community service. We're using that as an outlet. So we don't want project chairs or committee chairs or a leadership team that's just pointing their finger and saying, do this, do this, do this. We want everybody to be able to have a voice. And that's kind of really what sets our leadership apart, is when they can do that. You know, they can get things done while simultaneously building people at the same time. So one way to kind of look at some of those key differences is, again, a leader. You know, you as leaders here today, your organization is probably looking at you from an individual perspective, thinking that, you know, you inspire them, you influence. Some of you may not even realize that you're doing that, but you do. And it's kind of what Lee said there at the beginning. Are we influencing in a positive way, or are we putting that negative vibe on things? And that's what we don't want to do. But you as leaders, you know, you're going to listen to understand. That's another thing that sets you apart. You're not just talk all the time. You know, you seek to truly understand why a new intern in 2020 is having some difficulties getting this done or understanding this concept because it is brand new to them, and especially in a year like this. You know, obviously leading, that's huge for a leader. You know, you want folks to follow. You want to be a good leader to where people want to follow you. I mean, to kind of bring that to maybe a better analogy is like if Natalie was a horrible leader, we all probably would not be here today, because, you know, you've got to have a good leader at the helm to help guide your projects and your leadership team and stuff. And then about giving credit. A good leader is going to give credit to all parties involved. And that's part of that when Glenn was talking about personality. We do some of those exercises that kind of brings out the ways that different personalities are going to deal with those type things. If we're a boss, if we're acting like this, if we're dictating, pushing people around, speaking out of turn, all we want to do is sit on our throne and tell people what to do, and we're taking credit as an individual, you're not a leader. You're not an individual leader. You're not a leader for the team. You know, it's all about an individual basis, and that's not where we want to fall. So again, as we're growing ourselves individually, we want to be in these first two columns of leader and manager, because we need to know how to resolve conflict. We don't want that stuff to fester. We want to acknowledge, you know, all the good things that are being done, but at the same time, we need to have a good, you know, management style, be able to organize things and be direct in our communication. Lee, your turn.
Build the trust in your group too, to know that, you know, you're leading them and they can trust what you're saying and believe and follow through. You're not just dictating. You're not going to be around to follow through with them. And that transparency that you build with them as a leader, that, you know, there's no secrets in the group. You're taking action, so everyone can see that you're not just back there dictating to them, but you're working in the group and leading, and you're having an influence with them. And that trust is very important in the organization, that they feel like everybody's on the same page and working toward the same mission.
Absolutely. And so one of the things when you break back out into your groups, to just kind of keep in the back of your mind and really be honest with yourself and other, you know, what do you want to be called? Do you want to be called a leader in your organization, or do you want people to feel like you're this, you know, in the far right corner, you know, a boss, hard to get along with, unapproachable, lacks no passion? I mean, you know, which one do you want to be called? You know, which one of these columns do you want to be in? And again, it's all about nurturing the organization, because again, whether you realize it or not, what you do and how you interact, what you say, be it in an email or in the, you know, a written word or just face to face in a conversation, that's going to influence the behavior for the rest of the organization. And I think Lee said it best when we opened up. You know, we've got to have that positive culture. We've got to build a foundation of trust within you as leaders, and then that's got to spread into the rest of that local organization. Those members want to be able to trust their leadership team and know that, you know, the best interests are there at heart. They know that it's not about you as an individual. They know it's about the greater good of the organization. But so whether you realize it or not, you possess this skill to influence, and we really want to focus today on that being a positive social influence, you know, and some of us may have to look deep. You know, this is one of those topics that may be hard for some of us to deal with, and even myself. I mean, to be perfectly honest and to put it out there, because I believe in that transparent, honest communication. For those that have taken personality assessments, blue is, you know, the one color I lack in my spectrum, and that's usually where a lot of Master Gardener volunteers fall. You know, it's the compassion, working with people, and I don't always think that, because I'm just go get it done type of person. It's not that I want to leave people behind. You know, it's just that I've really had to focus on that for the last several years to make sure that, you know, I'm compassionate and I'm nurturing individuals within the organization, which in turn helps nurture the organization as itself. But again, kind of looking deep and beginning with that end in mind, and recognizing that, you know, we always here, they're born with it, you know, whether it's looks or athletic ability or whatever. But leadership, you know, is learned. You're not going to be born with that. It's again about growing and learning every single day. And, you know, and Jenny, I can see Jenny here, you know, she's on the work group and she hears us in those discussions all the time. You know, it's something we all have to work on all the time, because we all want to be the best we can be to help grow the organization. So it's all about honing those skills, right, Lee?
That's right. And the honesty that they feel from you, the genuine passion that you have as a leader will transfer into your group. You know, the respect that you create to them, that respect's going to come back to you. And we need all that in communication, working on a different project and stuff. So it's all having fun and developing, but you have, as a leader, you've got to set the tone in that group. Nurture your master gardeners.
And, you know, it's kind of like Jenny said there in the beginning, you know, being a leader is hard. It can present many challenges, but it can be a fun process as well. And like I say, sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable for, you know, us as individuals, or even us as a small leadership team, or as project chairs, committee chairs, you know, whatever facet, whatever role you're serving, to look deep within and, you know, really ask yourself and be honest if you're aspiring to what you're seeing on the screen right now, because you'll notice up there that leaders possess skills. And again, not to just keep on and on and on about it, but the more that you hear these things, somebody in our group a few minutes ago said that it serves as a reminder, if nothing else, that we need to always be creating that vision. We need to be energized and respectful, just like Lee just said. We need to be creative. This has been the year to be creative. How do we keep our people engaged? You know, how do we keep them interacting? How do we keep that connectivity, you know, at the forefront when we're meeting like this most of the time? We've got to inspire our groups. We need to be able to align people with their skill set and what they're really good at, to where they can grow and be empowered, you know, and take ownership of that. Being honest, being real. Everyone appreciates that. Nobody, you know, wants somebody that's fake, that can't be, you know, honest with themselves, because then they can't be honest with others. You know, and again, it's challenging, but you need to take that team-centered approach, because we all know as a team we get so much more accomplished. We've got to be problem solvers from an individual basis. You know, if you complain all the time, this, well, come with a solution as well. You know, if something makes you unhappy, then already have a solution figured out for that, so you can move, you know, the next step forward. You know, and then again, it's just acting with integrity, just being trustworthy, being steady. You know, you are who you are every single day without change.
It's really important to keep the information flow in your group. You as the leader, making sure that everybody's on being told or asked or communicated what the mission is, and making them feel valued. You know, your master gardeners emboldened just because they feel like someone values what they're doing. You know, if they're working in the garden and they're weeding or whatever, that's a value. If they're teaching a class for your group, that's you know, a value that they need to be praised and emboldened in that work ethic, and in just trying to keep everybody aligned, working toward the same goal and mission. And communication in the group is very important in that solving those problems that may develop.
Absolutely. And you know, one last thought before we bust into our small group, because again, the nurture module again is pretty self-explanatory. It's just about kind of massaging our groups to set that positive tone, to have that positive atmosphere, because you know, it all starts individually and again moves through the local organization. If we get to the point that we're talking behind each other's back without addressing it, you know, full on, things start to fester and can get out of hand. And you know, we just want to be in the position where people can you know, our members can actually come to us as leaders and not worry about it being like, you know, it's going to be swept under the rug, you know, whatever your worries, we're not taking those into account. You're wrong. We're on the leadership team. We've got this. You know, we can't act like that. So remember as leaders that we are growing, successful people. You know, if our organizations are not successful and every individual within that organization is successful, then we're going to fail, right? Not only as a group, but even as an individual. And then just remember, as a result, the people are what grow those successful organizations. And I like this little picture here on success. You know, you spend time on people first, and it's amazing what you can accomplish. You know, understanding that team dynamic, it goes back to everything we've been kind of preaching on today, setting that local tone, creating that culture. You know, clarifying, that's that transparent communication and building that foundation of trust. You know, we want everybody to be part of the team. Even if we've got different people working on projects, we're all part of the bigger picture. We all have to be supportive of one another. And, you know, just setting goals. We don't want to get stagnant and maintain the status quo. That's going to be challenging for the local groups, for you as leadership teams. You know, you don't want to just keep on doing the same old, same old. You know, really kind of stretch yourself and, you know, stretch out of the comfort zone. And I've got a little schematic that I'm going to send to y'all later that maybe you can print out and put on your refrigerator that shows us how to kind of exit our comfort zone and kind of take a step into the fear zone and maybe really start getting some things accomplished. And always depend on each other. You know, always provide feedback, enter into a dialogue with one another. We all have opinions, we all have thoughts, and we all have ideas, but remember, it's being respectful and not pushing that on other people, whether that be from a personal perspective or whether that's coming, you know, from a group approach within the organizations. Just always remember that we're all people and we're all in it together and we're all after the same goal. Lee.
Don't make assumptions about your group or personalities and people until you get to know people. I think that's important. And you want to involve people, others in your decision making. That just proves the trust in your team. And to build a strong team, they've got to have trust in your leadership. So
it's too bad that we are under the umbrella of COVID, because, you know, those escape rooms that are really popular at this time of year are wonderful team building exercises. It really puts you to the test. So maybe one day when we get out of this COVID umbrella, we can do one of those for volunteers across the state. Okay, so with that, we are going to continue back to our small group